Hey y'all, it's Diana from the Dianaverse, and I'm here today to do your Libra and full moon forecast. Before we get started on that, I want to wish all the Aries out there that might be watching a happy birthday. This is your birthday season. Even if you already had your birthday, we're still in Aries, so happy birthday again. A couple of little announcements. I wanted to let you guys know that I will be announcing my summer classes. Hopefully by the next lunation, I'm working on plans for various herbal and natural dye classes. And let me know in the comments if you would like to do any kind of astrology class, like a basic 101 astrology class or a particular topic, or astrology and herbs, medical astrology. That would probably be a fairly beginning class. I feel like I'm still studying that myself, but I do know the basics. I've been studying the basics for a few years. So let me know that in the comments, and I might try to add that into the plans. So as always, please like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos so that you get notice. Share them with your astrology friends, because the more people that are watching, the quicker you get the notifications. I've noticed that YouTube puts small channels like mine on the back burner, and you might not get these till a few days after I've posted it actually. So keep an eye out on Instagram and Facebook too. I'll put those links below so you can see when I've put the video up. Today I'm putting the video up. It is just after the full moon, because the full moon was at like midnight last night, but we'll still be feeling these effects for the next day or so, because the moon will still be in Libra until Tuesday around noon. So we've got plenty of time to get in your full moon rituals, intentions, whatever, herbal suggestions, whatever you want to follow. And we'll also be feeling this over the next, say, month or even 6 months, because this is an eclipse moon. We're in eclipse season now. The eclipses started with this particular full moon. It was a prenumbral eclipse, so you might not have necessarily seen it very dramatically, and especially if you were here in the Pacific Northwest, it was cloudy. You weren't seeing much of the moon anyway at midnight last night. So, but we will feel the effects, because that light is still being blocked from the sun. It's in a prenumbral, means it's in an eclipse. It's touching the eclipse points, and there's like a shadow that falls from the earth onto the moon. It's not quite as dramatic as when the moon is directly behind us and we're completely blocking the light, but it is still something measurable and that we can feel. These eclipses, this particular cycle, because the eclipses happen in a pair of signs, we call that an axis, where there's the moon and the sun are in particular signs that are opposite each other. And so they work their way backwards around the astrological wheel. If you've seen a wheel chart, you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? There's a circle with all of the signs designated around it, and there's also houses within that circle. So you might check your personal astrology chart to see what houses this is falling in for you, what areas of life, because the houses are areas of life where these planets are living in these particular houses in your chart. So I will put a link below also where you can get a free astrological chart if you don't happen to have one. You would need your time of birth. It's very important to see where the houses are and to find your ascendant. Your ascendant is where you meet the world. That's the time that you came into the world. Irregardless of your sun sign, you have your ascendant is where you face the world. So that can be very different than your sun sign, and it, depending on your chart, which you can book a reading with me, because that's a little more complicated, but it gives you an idea, like what's your first house. Your ascendant is right on the cusp of your first houses, and so that's you, that's the most personal house in the zodiac. It's your body, it's your a lot of your makeup that happens with you. And so it's very important. It's just as important as your sun sign. I don't know what my phone said there. I'm going to ignore that. Okay, so if you have your chart, get it out because it will help, because we're going to see uh, which house it might fall in for you. I mean, you're going to check that on your chart. And you can even ask me below if you want, if you're not sure what the house meanings are, if you can see what house your uh, Aries and your Libra are falling in. I can give you a basic idea of what those houses represent. I can give you that feedback. So I love comments anyway, so yeah, put that below if you're curious. So as I said, this is happening in Aries and Libra. The nodes are the points. It's not a point you can see in space, but it's the point where the eclipses take place, where the Earth is going to block the light from the sun, and so it places a huge importance on that. In Ayurvedic astrology, which is like most people think of that as Indian astrology, they call that Rahu and the name just went out of my head. Rahu and shoot, I can't remember it right this second, but it's a dragon, and so the dragon's tail is the south node, and then the dragon's head is up at the north node, and so Libra is in that south node position. So it's the tail of the dragon. I've heard some astrologers talk about it's where the dragon excretes things. Yes, we are putting things out of our lives, things that we want to let go of. This can be your comfort zone. It can be things that you're used to, a situation you know you need to get out of, but you're limping along in it. These are things that you want to let go of. I think of it more as the dragon's tail. Like if you've ever seen an iguana, they will hit things with their tail to defend themselves. So it's where the dragon is smacking things out of its life. That's how I like to think about it. So if it helps you to think of the eclipse portal as like a dragon's eye, I've seen some astrologers use that. It's a great visualization to make it something more dramatic for you that you'll remember. So where we're letting go of things is in Libra, and that's the Aries Libra axis is kind of the self versus the rest of humanity that we're interacting with. This is things that we have relationship with. It's not like Pisces where it's just everything in the world. This is where we have an interaction with either other people or organizations, or can be between countries, but there's some sort of relationship there. And so you've got that dynamic of Aries, the self, and Libra. How do I fit in with the rest of the world where I interact with it? So if you have relationships that aren't working, or people-pleasing things that you need to let go of, places that you need better boundaries, or you get caught up in other people, you hitch your ride onto somebody else's wagon. Like it's not sort of your idea, but you jump on it because it looks great, and then you're like, oh, this really wasn't me. Why was I so excited about this? So these are some things that you might want to look at and process. And the North Node, which we'll be having with the solar eclipse that's happening, I'm sure everybody's heard about the big April eclipse because it's going to be over the US and it'll be a total eclipse. I'm not personally traveling to see that particular one, but it's a big deal, right? Because it's going right across the US. So there's going to be dramatic things like in the middle of the country in the US. So we'll look out for those in April. And so the North Node is what you're working towards. We're not so focused on that. Well, we are and we aren't at this particular lunation, because what happens when you have the lunar eclipse is that the light from the constellation we see this time of year, which is going to be the Aries, that light's not making it to the opposite side, which is Libra. And so we are, in a way, focused on our interior world and figuring out ourselves and where we're coming from as a base, as opposed to all that stuff that is the outside world. And that's why I say also, it could be comfort zones. It could be jobs that you're tired of. It could be any kind of place where you don't have the relationship with it that you really want, but you've been kind of slogging along with it because it's working. Um, you're going to want to dare to be uncomfortable to get to our new moon, when we have our Aries new moon, and we want to set those Aries intentions for the whole coming year, because Aries is the start of the astrological year. It's a type of new year, if you want to look at it that way. So you want to be really clear when you get to that Aries new moon in 2 weeks. So you want to let go of all the junk that you wouldn't take with you if you want to go on the journey, the hero's journey that you want to go in. Now, Aries is in Pisces, so he's picking the good fight for the things that really matter overall. And you want to figure out what your particular role in that is, right? But this is a bit of an internal process to get to that point. So I did pull, where'd it go? Oh, it fell on the floor. Hold on. I pulled a card from my Wisdom of the Caliac deck that I got from Jane Brightson, and she's over in Ireland. I believe Ireland. It's Ireland or Scotland. I think it's Ireland. And this is the card that I pulled for this lunation, and it's the veiled one. So not only do we have the veil of the eclipse over those Libra things that we need to maybe release some stuff or integrate it. You know, people talk about detoxing, releasing. Energy never ends, right? It just transmutes. So I like to think of letting go of things as transmutation. Like, okay, that was right for me at this particular time, or I felt like I had to do whatever. And how can I look at that energy differently? Because a lot of this stuff that we do, our inner work, is a matter of perspective, how we look at things. Because if, let's say, you're always unhappy with your life, well, maybe it's the way you're looking at it, right? Like, you're never grateful for the good things that happen. You don't even see those because you've got blinders on. You only see this other kind of thing. And then if you kind of take those blinders off, you're like, oh, you know, like, this is good and that's good. It's taken me, I got to tell y'all, decades to be able to do gratitude processes, because I used to be, I mean, I was born in the dark of the moon, like right before the new moon. So I have a tendency to just, and I was born on the 16th, which is the Tower card. And so, the sky is falling. That's me, right? So it has taken me decades to work up to finding a better perspective on things. And I got to tell you, my life has greatly improved since I've been able to do that. I'm so much happier. But, so we've got the eclipse, which is veiling the moon, which is the feminine. And we also have this veiled one. And she's holding all the cards, right? You've got everything inside of you. But you've got to do that process. You've got to pick the right cards, see what they say, listen to them, go with the flow. Got that Mars in Pisces, so you do have to be adaptable. That's water energy. See where that was falling now? It's right over there. So yeah, flow with stuff and put the energy in the direction that things are going and see how that works out for you. Don't get stuck midstream, right? Don't get stuck on the log floating by. Mars is following Venus in Pisces. Venus went into Pisces first. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She's very comfortable there. She likes it. She's got all the pretty lights. She's got her cuddle, what do you call it? The cuddle puddle, you know, her besties, where she's feeling good. So the feminine is leading the masculine at this moment. And that's not always apparent in the outer world, because our current society is extremely focused on the masculine, doing, going, dominating, you know, all those things, all the masculine type energies. So the feminine is actually leading and the masculine is following the feminine. And this is probably more of a kind of thing that we'll see in hindsight, that certain things were happening behind the scenes, that people were working on certain issues, especially feminine issues. And we will see the results of that later. They're in Pisces, so it's like figuring out what to let, it's the same process, like figuring out what to let go of, what's worth fighting for. And so we will see more of the results of that when they move into Aries, most likely. I'm looking at my computer so I can, because I can't memorize all the aspects before I start filming. So we've also got Chiron that is conjunct that Sun and North Node. Chiron is the wounded healer, so that kind of, that accentuates that point about the things going on behind the scenes. People are working on the things that they want to heal in the world behind the scenes. And so with Aries, Chiron has been in Aries for a little while, but it's just now conjunct with the Sun. And also, this particular nodal axis only happens every 19 years. I don't think I said that before. And so, because it's a long process, it stays in a sign for like a year and a half each time. So it's very rare for there to be an eclipse and Chiron with the Sun at the same time. So there are going to be big movements, big shifts in energy, big opportunities to heal, big opportunities for things to be wounded, to go into another cycle. Hopefully you won't be on the receiving end of that. It's more of a generational thing because Chiron also moves very slowly. And so although we feel things personally, it can be part of a greater collective shift, healing and wounding that's going on. These things happen in cycles. Certain things will be healed, certain more things will be wounded. And I think you can see that in the news too. We still have Jupiter and Uranus that are conjunct over there in Taurus. Taurus rules Libra. And so there's still a huge accent on how we interact with the world, right? And there can be big sudden changes. And another astrologer noted that Uranus is quick, right? It's going to be conjunct. It's been conjunct with Jupiter for a little while. But these changes that happen aren't going to be things that necessarily stick the way they would say Saturn. Like Saturn is very like foundational, and we don't always enjoy Saturn and his rules and his boundaries. But those are things that stay for a while, whereas Uranus tends to be more like a flash, like something happens, you can't get too attached to it. It's just showing you which way you got to go. So, and it can be big because it's with Jupiter, right? So yeah, these are all things to look out for. I feel like I'm getting longer than I usually do here, and I hope y'all are staying with me. That moon that's being eclipsed, it is having a nice aspect there with Pluto. It's a Pluto, it's a sextile. No, it's a trine. It's actually a trine. And so it can feel a little easier. It's like that Pluto is supporting you in any changes that you need to make. The light's coming from a different position now already. So you have support. You can find resources either out in the world or deeply within yourself, since we're doing more of an internal thing here with Aries. So you can find support for these changes that you want to make, even if they seem a little scary or uncomfortable. You've got support with that. So yeah, go with it. If something's coming up for you to change, use that energy to ride that wave. Especially since retrograde, Mercury retrograde. Okay, I'm going to call it retrograde, right? Why not? So it's going to go retrograde on April 1st, which is coming right up. So I've already been seeing that energy, some communication slowing down, some little technical like snafus and things like that. So be aware that we will be able to take this information of all the stuff that we're turning around, what we want to keep and what we want to change our perspective on for the next several weeks. Throughout this eclipse season, we're just going to be going back and forth over this stuff. Whatever you've got in process, you might think it's ready, it's done. It's probably going to take more effort than that. I have certainly seen that myself. All right, let's move along to our crystal and plant friend suggestions for this lunation. So I am working with kind of masculine and feminine because there's a lot of emphasis on this. Venus and Mars, they're in the same sign. They've been moving around together for a little bit. So I am going with some keeping with the nodes, which is a very not Ayurvedic, but did I say Ayurvedic for the nodes earlier? I don't remember. Forgive me if I did, but can't think of the right word for that right now either. I'm having brain fog with Mercury's getting ready to go retrograde, y'all. I can't help it. But anyway, the Indian system of astrology really takes in seriously those nodes, Ketu and Rahu. I think that's what it is. So with this dragon energy, I'm going to go with masculine and feminine because Aries and Libra are, well, they're actually both, it's like a fire sign and an air sign. Those are both masculine. But then Aries is ruled by Mars, which is masculine. Libra is ruled by Venus, which is feminine. So there's a little bit of a mishmash in there. I'm going to go with two herbs. One is more masculine, one is more feminine. So I'm going to go with a combination of ashwagandha and shatavari. So ashwagandha, I've heard that the name means smells like a horse. It's supposed to be vigorous. It really goes with that Mars thing we got going on right now. So ashwagandha you want to extract with some kind of fat in your tea. So you could also buy tinctures, which is easy, but if you're making tea, which is what I like to do, you want to use a fat. So I use cream. You could use a milk. You could use plant milk if it has some fats in it. You want to check the label. You could use a spoon of coconut oil. You could use, it's just that the particular compounds that are in ashwagandha are better extracted with some sort of fat. That's why you often see it in like a moon tea where they've got a cream or a coconut milk or something. Coconut milk's another great one. And shatavari, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Shatavari, someone can correct me, means 1,000 husbands. So this is the feminine principle, and this is, someone has the vigor to support 1,000 husbands, and so it's very nourishing. It's actually related to asparagus, and it's the root that they use. Ashwagandha is also a root, and so we're still in early spring. These tonic and nourishing type herbs are great for this time of year as a tea. Now you can always add other tasty things to those, but we're balancing out the masculine and feminine. Other things I would suggest adding would be like toasted almond, cardamom, cinnamon, rose petal, all of these lovely herbs that make wonderful Ayurvedic lattes, right? Maybe honey rather than sugar. Up to you. Okay, then for the rock friends, the crystal I'm going with this month is wolfenite, and I don't know if you can see the color very well through the camera, but it's a stone. It's a stone is in the middle. It's a stone that's found mainly in Arizona. There are some other places in the world, but it's mainly found in Arizona, and it's a very dark red, on the level of, say, like a garnet. I would say it's comparable to, as far as the way it looks. It's a beautiful stone, and it is supposed to strengthen the will, strengthen your intentions. So this is great for us to use during the eclipse season. This is a piece I made from a found piece of driftwood. And they say if you find rocks, in Scotland it's mostly rocks, but if you find stuff on the beach that's already got the hole in it, it's very protective. It's the feminine principle, a bit like a Sheila and a gig, that she's holding open her vulva, which is the gateway to life, because life comes through a woman's vulva. It's also protective as they're older. These old women, they aren't afraid of anything. They've been through it all. And so people would put their fingers in the vulva. They were often pre-Christian, but they would be put in the doorways of churches and places in Ireland and Scotland. And people would put their finger in there for fertility, but also, which, we're coming up to Beltane, so why not? Also protection. Being enclosed in the womb, that's like a very safe place. And so I've put my willpower in this protective tree vulva here because I love trees. And you don't have to put it in a piece of driftwood, but if you can get a piece of wolfenite, or if you can't, if you don't have access, download a picture of it from the internet, print it out, put that on your altar. You can still pick up on the energy of the plant. I've seen some great YouTube videos about going out and foraging for wolfenite in Arizona. It's really fun. Excuse me. Summer allergies are about to gear up, so getting phlegmy already. Anyway, I hope some part of this was useful for you. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoy these. It helps me get YouTube to show it to anybody. Share it with your friends who might enjoy it, an astrology podcast. I am open to doing some readings this spring, late spring. I'm going to do some specials, so contact me below if you're interested in getting a reading, if it will help you sort through what you're doing in this eclipse season. And I look forward to the new moon. It's going to be a wonderful time to set intentions. I hope you've been working on your self-talk as Mars and Venus run through Pisces. Our internal dialogue, the Aries, how we talk to ourselves. Tell yourself nice things. All right, see you next time. Bye-bye.